Welcome to Defense Dollars, a weekly update on the defense and aerospace markets around the world and what's making the numbers move. Let's dive in. First up, we know it's 2025, but how did defense companies fare last year, and what can it tell us about the future? A new report from the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute found that conflict in Ukraine and Gaza and many countries' decision to increase their defense spending pushed up profits in this sector. The world's largest arms-producing country saw a 5.9% increase in revenue in 2024, the institute said. That according to a report from the AP. Much of that revenue was earned by companies based in the U.S. and Europe, though companies around the globe saw rises. A notable exception was China, where arms industry issues led to a slight decrease. In all, U.S. and European countries earned close to $500 billion in revenue, fueled by the perceived threat to NATO nations by Russia. Speaking of Russia, the two companies in the Institute's list also saw increases driven by the war, that despite international sanctions on Russian firms. Arms revenue also grew in the Middle East, led by Israeli companies, as that country fought a war in Gaza. In total, the 100 largest arms-producing company revenues totaled $679 billion in 2024, the SIPRI's report says. So that was 2024, but how are major defense companies faring recently? While a lot of the heavy hitters, your Boeing, RTX, Lockheeds, and the like, have all seen rising stock prices throughout the year, recent world events have taken a bite out of profits. The reason? Talks brokered by the United States between Ukraine and Russia point to a possible resolution, pulling down possible future arms sales from recent highs.
We are fully engaged in negotiations, and we're only stepping up our efforts. Our team is now looking ahead to next very important meetings. Today, Ukraine is closer to peace than ever before, and there is a real chance.
Earlier this week, many of the U.S.'s top defense companies saw their stock prices dip into the red, and where they go from here is anyone's guess. In November, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the Pentagon would radically reform its acquisition process, changing the fundamentals of how it procures military systems going forward.
We must wage an all-out campaign to streamline the Pentagon's process to unshackle our people from unproductive work and to shift our resources from the bureaucracy to the battlefield.
Over in the shipbuilding sector, things were a little more mixed for Italian company Fincantieri. The military shipmaker holds the contract for 4 new ships in the U.S. Navy's Constellation-class frigate program. But in late November, the Secretary of the Navy announced he was canceling the new line of vessels. The U.S. Navy had at one time eyed buying as many as 20 of the new ships, and 2 that are already half-built will be completed. In a statement, Fincantieri said it expected new business to come its way from the Navy to make up for the losses.
Today, I can announce the first major public action in this reshaping, a strategic shift away from the Constellation-class frigate program. The Navy and our industry partners have reached a comprehensive framework that terminates, for the Navy's convenience, the last 4 ships of the class, which have not begun construction.
And how has the news impacted Fincantieri's market status? Well, as of this week, the company's stock price was still up more than 150% for the year and has only lost about 60 cents per share since the November 25th announcement, dipping from $20 to just under $19.50. Finally, quick alert for those deep in military tech and following the Pentagon's emerging needs. The Marines are looking for a new GPS landing system meant for far-flung battlefields. According to the Naval Air Systems Command, which kicked off the exploratory process for the system recently, the capability needs to be able to fit inside one of the Marines' most used aircraft and be rugged enough to handle austere conditions. That lines up with a system made by Collins Aerospace, owned by RTX, formerly Raytheon, called the Expeditionary Joint Precision Approach Landing System, which is a mouthful to describe a GPS system designed to make aircraft landing simpler and safer. One to watch if you're looking at opportunities in the defense sector. And that wraps up your defense dollars for this week. Join us on Cheddar.com and DefenseNews.com for more stories like those.